Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Franchise Show. This is the show where we get under the hat of all things franchising, and it's a live show. Well, it's live if it's 5:15 in the UK on the 25th of August, or about 12:15 in bits of America. And because it's live, we love you to get involved. So pop in a comment and say hello. And get involved in our conversations, because you are the producers and the directors of this show. And we love it when you get involved. We love it when you ask a question or just say hello. So do that if you are here. Now, what do we do each week on the Franchise Show? We take a new topic and we take a lovely guest. And we have no exception to that this week. We have an amazing guest. And before I introduce him to you, I'd like to tell you about what we're going to be talking about today. So today we are talking about growing a franchise brand without losing its soul. So when you're a franchisor and you've got that idea and you sketched it down on, I don't know, the back of a napkin or something, and you then put your heart and soul into it for many years to create it as a franchise brand, how does that carry across as you grow from 1 to 2 to 10 to 100 locations? So it's going to be a fascinating conversation. And we have the amazing Wesley Williams with us from Heavenly Desserts. I've been chatting away to Wesley and didn't even realize it was time to go live just now. So it's great to have you on the show, Wesley.
Thank you very much for having me, Harvey. It's brilliant to actually be with you. And we probably could have gone the whole hour there without realizing, couldn't we?
That's it. That's it. Well, it's fantastic to have you on the show. Before we get into today's topic, perhaps you could just give a little sort of description of your kind of pathway up to where you've got now, and how you've got into the world of franchising.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone that's joining as well. Hopefully today will bring a little bit of insight. But as Harvey says, a little bit about me. Who am I in this wonderful community? So please do call me Wes. Wes is absolutely fine. And how I got into franchising? Well, it all started at the age of 16, Harvey, starting with the KFC brand. And you can imagine every 16-year-old doesn't really want to get a job. And the story goes, my mother marched me into KFC on that fateful day, and she said, look, he needs a job. I need to get him out of my hair, and he's a bit of an ugly mug, so put him in the back, will you? And we got the job at KFC, and on started my hospitality journey, as it were. So stayed with the KFC brand for a good period of time and started really taking an interest in hospitality management. Over a succession of different roles with different brands, including McDonald's, Ask Italian, Turtle Bay, and now Heavenly Desserts. Grown my interest across corporate, equity, and franchise models, and aim to join brands that are looking to scale their businesses, because that's where the excitement is, right? So each brand that I've worked in the past 10 years with, certainly been on a scaling journey. And where I land today with Heavenly Desserts is a scaling business, not just in the UK, which is its home, but also globally as well. So yeah, from the kitchens of KFC to the offices of Heavenly Desserts. That's a little bit about my journey there.
Fantastic. Sounds like you've landed in quite a sweet deal there.
That's good. There's going to be a lot of these today, isn't there? There's going to be a lot of these.
I try my best. I love a pun. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, look, welcome to the show. Fantastic introduction. Let's say hello to a couple of people who've joined us here already. A couple of franchising legends, I'm going to say. We've got the lovely Tim Morris with us. Tim's book, Good Evening, Franchise Friends. Good to be here. This is such an important subject. Well, it certainly is. It's great to have you here with us, Tim, and really interested to hear your thoughts. Tim is, of course, working with Nikki on the bridge, supporting franchisees and franchisors, and it'd be really good to hear your thoughts about how we do this. How do we grow a franchise brand without losing the essence, that original idea, the culture, the personality of it, and the soul? That's what we're talking about today. So great to have you with us. We've got the lovely Penny Hopkinson with us. Penny has been a great supporter of the show for many years. And Penny is a franchise ops specialist, actually. In fact, she wrote a book I've always been a fan of Penny. I've always promoted a book. There it was coming along. Is it going to be the right way around today? No, we will see. No, it's not. Sorry about that, Penny. But if you would like to get your ops manual the right way around, then talk to Penny. And in fact, she's launched Manual Magic AI. So it's a fascinating thing. Really looking forward, of course, hearing Penny's thoughts on growing a franchise brand and how ops manuals play a part in that. How can you create an ops manual that helps maintain the soul of a brand? Anyway, great to have everyone with us today. So let's get into things a little bit. You've got a lot of experience. What's been your sort of history of how do you first of all capture what is the soul of a brand? You know, what sort of questions do we ask ourselves as franchisors to discover what is that essence?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question, and it's certainly the starting point of understanding, you know, how to scale your business, right? And what I find and I've found over time in hospitality is the word soul can be thrown around quite as often as the word culture can be thrown around. It's easy to say. It's very difficult to actually outlay in practice. And I think my experience shows, Harvey, that there's a formula that can be followed to identify what a soul or a brand soul actually is. And don't worry, I won't get too metaphysical or philosophical on you.
No, go for it. I don't mind.
I found really a brand soul can be identified a combination of three things. It's the founder's vision, it's the translation of that vision, and it's how consistently that vision is delivered. And that's really what defines a brand soul. And rather than just give you theory, I like to use as many practical examples as possible. I spent a bit of time working with a brand called Turtle Bay. And I remember my time with Turtle Bay very fondly. And the reason I remember it very fondly is that brand had a real soul. And what I mean by that is when you walked into a Turtle Bay, you could feel very, very distinctly what it was supposed to be. And that's credit to the founder, Ajith, who had a very particular vision, which was we want to take a bar shack out of the Caribbean and put it into Bromsgrove or Northampton or wherever you might want to land a Turtle Bay. And what that vision led to was the framework of a business that you can then bring somebody in with experience in the operations world to translate that from the founder's mind into practical reality. And a few examples I can remember from my time at Turtle Bay was when you walked into a Turtle Bay during the lunch period, you would always smell the bread and butter pudding being cooked fresh from the back of the kitchen. And the service was slightly casual. And the bar was always right near the door. And all of these elements built towards a very purposeful vision of what the founder wanted to replicate from the Caribbean. The team successfully translated it into real life and made these things happen. And then how a business scales from there and keeps their brand soul intact is hiring and recruiting the right operations team to firstly understand that vision, but then execute it consistently across the restaurants. And they did a wonderful job of it, as many different brands out there as well. But I use that as a real world example, Harvey, to say that's what a brand soul looks like. It's a formula of three things: the founder's vision, translating that vision to reality, and how consistently you can deliver that.
Brilliant. I love that. And it was also, I'm going to go back to your kind of your origin story. We're like doing superhero films here, aren't we now? But and it was interesting actually. Your mother got you into KFC. My mother suggested I should be an estate agent. And that led me to buying a house. I was an estate agent for a couple of years in the mid-90s, giving away my age a little here. But then that led me on to then selling commercial catering equipment and getting into QSR and getting into franchising. Right. So, yeah, shout out to the mums there.
That's it. Mums always get a shout out, Harvey.
Definitely. The other thing I really want to pick up on, actually, is something you said there about, I mean, I'd like to get into this vision, translation of the vision and consistency. But something you said there about Turtle Bay, and you said it was about the feel, and then you went on to really vividly describe something, right? And I really like that, and it reminded me of something. When I worked with a franchise brand, I used to ask franchisees how they saw their day. And some of them would go, oh, I don't know, just serving some coffee, or just going to the coffee shop. And some of them would say, oh, I saw it. I can see it. It's the sun's coming through. It's an afternoon. I can smell the coffee. I know my customers. I'm walking in. This is what it's going to look like. And they just vividly explained it. The other thing, and again, I wrote down, I don't write anything down at the beginning, but I sure do write a lot down while we're talking. And I wrote down the word feel, because one of the things I was told by somebody, and I think it really rings true, is that if somebody only remembers one thing, it's how you make them feel. And that's not just one person to another person. Now, that's an experience as well.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right. That vision is translated, if you do it right, and describe it as vividly as you did, into that feel and how you make those people feel. Before we get further into this today and look more into that vision, the translation of that and the consistency, let's welcome a few more people to the show. And we've got a question, I think, coming up from Penny. So let's first of all welcome Steve Turner to the show. Steve's put the highlight of my week. Oh, that's very nice of you, Steve. Steve, of course, has worked for many brands, including Chopsticks. Another great guest from a great brand. Sock it to us, Wes. Great expression there. Like it. I've got to do my pronunciation. I've made it roll from my own back here, but here we go. Right. It's Joe Caruso, my lovely friend Joe. Oh, hang on a minute. I'm going to put Wes at the top here, because Joe, your comment is so big, it's covering Wes's face. Doesn't matter if it's mine. Okay. Well, look, first of all, thank you for joining us, Joe. It's always fantastic to have you with us. Joe is going to be on quite a few episodes coming up, because we're doing a few American specials in the next few weeks and months. So it's going to be very exciting. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to try and pronounce where you live, Joe. Great to be here in the LinkedIn Online Lounge. Oh, I like that. On the beautiful shores of the Chesapeake Bay, the Susquehanna River in Havre de Grace, Maryland, USA. And will Harvey Tuck be able to pronounce where I live unaided by technology? No, I hope not. I hope I never get it right. Not 100%, because it's part of fun, isn't it? Anyway, fantastic to have you with us. Joe is an amazing resource if you're looking to franchise in the US. Always speak to the lovely Joe. Great to have you with us, Joe. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on how the brands you worked with and work with have expanded without losing their souls, without losing their vision. And how do they do that? We've got Lisa Feverick with us. Lisa is a lovely regular to the show. Always great to have you with us, Lisa. She helps people with dietary advice when they're going through the menopause. Fantastic to have you with us. So thanks for being here. We've got Johnny Joseph with us. Johnny is a franchisee royalty auditor and a guest on this show previously. He's put hi fierce franchise friends. Is that fierce? Yeah. From a sweltering Los Angeles. Always makes me think of the dude from The Big Lebowski whenever people mention Los Angeles. I appreciate other people live there, and he probably doesn't, but great fan of that film. Worldwide franchisee royalty, not so easy auditing headquarters. Excellent. Well, Johnny, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on, I guess, when you're coming in and auditing a business, I suppose you're also looking at how well a franchisee is kind of sticking to the plan, how well they're sticking to that vision. So give us your thoughts on whether you see that soul being diluted by franchisees wanting to go their own way and not quite following things as they should. But it's, of course, fantastic to have you with us. We've got a question or a comment here from Penny, and let's have a look at what Penny's got to say. So Penny has put, I've always believed a brand distinguishes itself from a competitor by embedding its DNA, the soul of the brand, in its operations manual. How do you do this with Heavenly Desserts, using AI but applying operational intelligence to replicate the brand's soul? This is a really interesting one, and look, we go down lots of rabbit holes on this one, so it doesn't matter what order we take these in. I'd love you to have a go at answering this, Wes. How have you seen, we'll talk about Heavenly Desserts, but how have you seen ops manuals embody the vision and the soul, and how important do you think those ops manuals are for replicating that as you scale?
Yeah, absolutely critical is the short answer to that. If you don't document it, then no one will be able to follow it. You know, that's the real short answer to that question around operations manuals. And if I could summarize, you know, the spine of today's conversation, it would be that process protects the promise, but people deliver the feeling. So the question here from Penny around operations manuals and their importance and using AI, it's incredibly important, because what operations manuals do is they take that vision from the founder's mind and they put it into replicable, repeatable standards that can be delivered consistently across the brand. And without it, Harvey, you know, there's a lot of brands out there that have a bit of a cookie cutter operations manual that they've picked off the shelf, and that's okay. It's where they need to be at that stage.
Especially if you're in the cookie business, of course.
Yeah, very good. Very good. But what you find is when you go to scale that cookie cutter operations manual, it quickly starts letting you down in a few key areas. And one of those key areas is the founder's vision. Yeah. If people are following what's in the manual, because that's the standard, and it doesn't really reflect the founder's vision, that's when it leads to a degradation of the actual vision itself. So to answer Penny's question directly, we are very mindful of how our operations manual is built, not just to be an SOP that someone reads once and never reads again, but there's a level of interactability and resources for every SOP that's built in. And that takes people to where the feeling exists. An example I could give you is there may be an SOP live for how to cash your till up at the end of the night. Now, that is a good document to read and understand how that process happens. But for every SOP, there should be a resource. And that resource might be a video of someone walking through the process and explaining why it's important, using their surroundings in a live environment that gives people the feeling of going through that process. So hopefully that answers the question there around how operations manuals fit factored in to protecting a brand soul.
Yeah, absolutely it did. And I think it's a really interesting one to bring up, actually, from Penny. And I think you answered it beautifully. And I think one of the things that you've said, and one of the things that I know that Penny is a big advocate of, is the fact that you can use video, you can use QR codes that lead you to interactive things. An ops manual 20 years ago, probably even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, was a heavy bound document that was very laborious to read. No one's going to remember it. Very difficult to update. Whereas now you can make that a very fluid thing, as long as you know where your vision is and as long as you know where that soul exists within it, you can make it appeal, especially to younger people. You know, younger people aren't going to want to even look at build cards for food. They're going to want to watch videos, right? We need to appeal for young people. Young people spend a long time scrolling on their phone watching 10, 15-second videos, right? We need to appeal to that, right? You know, if we had an ops manual that was like Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you just scroll through it, and it had videos on there that were funny, but also educated you and directed you towards the right vision. That's the sort of thing that, you know, that we should be talking about and that we should be thinking about as franchisors. So love that question, and you answered it beautifully.
And absolutely agreed. And certainly there's businesses out there that are looking towards the reality of the workforce, the age of the workforce, and how they interact with materials. And that's part of protecting the brand promise and the brand soul, the consistency part. If people are not engaging with your materials, Harvey, well, they're not going to deliver the brand soul consistently. So how to actually get your team and your workforce engaged with your materials, it's a real hot conversation in hospitality at the moment. And I've seen some great brands doing some great things out there. And not only you with the manual magic book, I've also been a big advocate of Penny's work along the way. And I think it's a really great read.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Let's have a look. We've got a few more coming in here. We've got a great question coming up from Johnny. And my score's in. This is exciting. Drum roll. Oh no one's there. Let's have a look. So Joe's come back today. Harvey Tuck score a blisteringly brilliant 8.4. That is my best score yet. An admirable improvement. This is a lot like men's gymnastics, but verbal. Yes. Well, look, you know what? I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep practicing once a week when we do this live. Fantastic to, of course, always have you with us. Mysterious. We have a LinkedIn user. Hi, a bit late, but landed. Let us know who you are. But great to have you with us. Mystery LinkedIn user. Let's have a look. We got good comment coming up from Johnny and from John coming up as well. But before we get to that, let's welcome Matthew Stancliffe to the show. Matthew, welcome to the Franchise Show. Great to have you with us. Matthew, I believe, is with Stonegate, regional manager with Stonegate. So fantastic to have you with us. Let us know your experience of growing a brand and your vision perhaps when you joined and how that was diluted or affected and how you kept that strong as you've gone through your career. But absolutely fantastic to have you with us. Thanks for getting involved. Looking forward, of course, to hearing your thoughts. Let's have a look here. Johnny has come back with royalties is the lifeblood of a franchise and thus feeds the soul, right? Maybe, absolutely. We'll have a chat about that in a minute. I suggest that it's imperative that the Zor to me, and I like this expression of Zor and Z, but Zor to me sounds like maybe a baddie in a Superman film, but I still like it. Emphasizes that they need this revenue flow to keep the whole system healthy so Z's can thrive. Zoe's. Zors need to demonstrate royalty income is being put to good use to benefit the Z's themselves. Yeah, look, I think this is right. Look, because the money element of franchising, right? We as franchisees, we've got to make money. As franchisors, we've got to make some money, right? It is the lifeblood. It has got to be right. What do you make of this? How do you think that side of things affects the soul or the vision of a business? Do you think that if someone's not making any money, because this is my take on it, if someone's not making any money in a franchise brand, what they then tend to do is to look at ways to save money, look at different ways of doing things to make more money, and both of those things could be away from the vision and the soul of the brand, not because they're wanting to do that, but because they're in a situation that they feel they need to do it. What's your thought? Do you think that the money element can lead to these sorts of challenges?
It certainly can. Yeah, it certainly can. You know, people get into business for the purpose of generating an income for themselves. An earning for themselves. So it's often, I find, where those challenges exist, the first step is not to impose what the standard should or shouldn't be. And the first step is not to just let people cut corners and allow things to, devalue over time, because that affects the brand's soul, its identity, right? Actually, the best thing to do in those scenarios is just be very human. Just ask why. Why are we where we are? Let's figure this thing out together. And it's a great point to say that, yes, a franchisor can't exist without its franchisees, and franchisees can't exist without the franchisor. So it truly has to be a partnership in the sense of the word. And where things become challenging, and every business has its challenges, we must start with why. Why are we here? Let's figure this thing out together.
Yeah, I think that's really wise to understand the why. I always talked about that when you were talking to a franchisee initially, is to understand their why, and to understand the why when things aren't going so well is also really important. So yeah, love that. And also love the fact you said be human.
Yeah,
we are human, unless we're robots. Apologies for the robots listening. Big up to the robots.
Quickly get that one in there.
Well, yeah, it might be like Skynet in the future. So you've got to be kind to them. Always be kind to your Siri and your electronic devices, just in case. And it's nice. Let's have a look. We've got a few more comments coming in. Thanks for that one, Johnny. We've got John Phillips with us. John, I believe, used to be at GDK, and he's now running the C project. I looked at that bit. It's great to have you with us, John. Really looking forward to hearing your thoughts. John's put a really great and resonating point, Wes and Harvey. The ops manual is the key to innovation within the franchise operations. This is a really interesting one, actually. And I'm going to, and I think let's have a look at this one right now. I was going to say we'll come back to it, but why not? Let's look at it now. What do you make of this one? Because I think this is really interesting. I spoke to a franchisor in America recently, a pizza company. It was Timber Pizza, brilliant brand. But one of the things that they did that I'd never heard said before, they said that 85% of what a franchisee does, they have to do in a certain way. It's brand standards. There it is. It's set. But 15% is open to some interpretation, is open to some innovation. Right? But they know what the 15% is. They know where they can innovate. They know where they can push the boundaries. What do you think about this one that may be within that ops manual that you can find some innovation? And have you had franchisees coming to you in the past that said, I've got a great idea? And how is that sort of slotted into the businesses you've worked with?
Yeah, it's a great point, and the percentages there are around about right. The ops manual is not to be restrictive; it's to provide guidance and guidelines that strengthen the brand. So partners essentially don't have to do that work themselves. That's important, right? That's why you buy into a franchise. Otherwise, you would set up your own business. But that 15%, where I've seen that most effectively used, and some brilliant partners in the Heavenly Desserts Network who do this well, is actually within local marketing. Because I cannot, and I'm happy to say this, time and time again, is I cannot know the market better than the partner in Southampton who lives in Southampton. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. They live there. They feel it every day. So knowing and understanding that and actually empowering that to happen, what we do is we look at local marketing as an opportunity. And I've got to admit that the partner over in Southampton in our brand, they're doing some brilliant, groundbreaking work at a local level to really promote their business. And they're seeing great success off the back of it. So it's a wonderful example there of we can provide guidance and do provide guidance in franchising about how to market locally. But when you come up with your own ideas and you're given a little bit of empowerment and room to breathe, you can often find that your partners will come up with better ideas than you. And that's what great franchising looks like, empowering your partners to deliver a level of their own success.
Mm. Yeah, I love that as well. I love that the fact that you've got the attitude that your franchisees are that power. They're the ones that are delivering that innovation, which is brilliant, and that's what's so wonderful about franchising. You've got these fantastic franchisees that are entrepreneurial, that are hardworking, that love your brand, that are working with you to grow your organization. And they're working, like you say, they're working in it. They're working in their area. They know what's going to work and what's not. And we must, as franchisors, give mechanisms and give room for franchisees to express and give their thoughts and their ideas, because it's so important to grow. And
And
you know,
it certainly comes back to the spine that we covered right at the front, which is the process protects the promise of the brand, and it's the people that deliver the feeling. And you walk into a restaurant that's truly loved and locally marketed, and a sense of community there feels very different to one that's not delivered in that manner. It's an incredible piece of work that a lot of partners do in the Heavenly Desserts network.
I love that. That's going to be a quote from today. That process delivers the promise and people deliver the feeling. I really like it. I tried to write it down last time, but I didn't quite get to the end of it, which is why I've just scribbled on it again. But
It's all right.
I love that. I love that. Brilliant. Fantastic. Let's have a look. Actually, if you've just joined us today, this is the Franchise Show. And today we are talking about growing a franchise brand without losing its soul, with the wonderful Wes Williams from Heavenly Desserts. It's been a fantastic conversation so far, and if you're here live at 17:47 as I speak, then pop in a comment, say hello, and get involved in our conversations, because you really, I don't write anything down. I've got 5 pages of stuff written down now, but at the beginning I didn't have anything written down, and it's because it's a conversation between us all. So I love when you get involved. And to that effect, let's have a little look. We've got a few more comments coming in here. And a great one there from John, first of all. The mystery LinkedIn user. It's Barry Webster. Barry, great to have you on the show again. No mystery, no more. Barry is the MD of ClearCall, and it's fantastic to have you with us. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Look, we have the sleepy Charles Caldwell. Well, I assume he's sleepy because it's 1 a.m. in Hong Kong, where he is. I always appreciate Charles being on the show. Lovely chap, fantastic live shows. He works at a university there. Really understands his culture, really understands his people. And he's a fascinating chap. So please reach out and connect to Charles. What else have we got here? Let's have a look at what Barry's got to say. Barry's put, by offering great guidance, backup and advice, stroke support, offering value and costs, as this will build loyalty to the brand. Yeah, great comment actually. And I think you're right. I think loyalty, this is a really interesting comment actually, because loyalty, where does that come from as well? We're talking today about the soul of a brand. And I think that's connected quite closely to loyalty. I think loyalty is with the soul of the brand. It's with the essence. It's with something that goes more towards that feeling that the people deliver. What do you make about loyalty and the soul of a brand? How are those connected in your mind?
Yeah, it certainly comes back to that word we will repeat throughout the call, no doubt, is the feeling of the brand. You remember how people made you feel, you said at the start. Mm-hmm. It's a very poignant point. So we find generally that when it comes to loyalty, we're led by our feelings. So we have a positive experience in a coffee shop, for example, and the barista remembers our name, and we feel like it's a second home away from home, and the Wi-Fi is working wonderfully. It's maybe not as strong as yours, Harvey, but it's working wonderfully, and the coffee tastes great, and the music's just right. It's left us with a feeling that, I like this place. I think I'm going to come back here again. Mm-hmm. And the loyalty cycle begins. And where loyalty either sticks or twists, it's about consistency. And we can use just one restaurant as an example here. You know, if I go to one restaurant one day and have a beautiful experience and everything feels just right, and then I go next week and I have a subpar experience, actually my loyalty might wane quite quickly. And there's enough research out there to suggest that if you can capture your guests for 3 really strong visits, the likelihood that they'll increase for a 4th visit and beyond is almost above 70%. So what I can read from that in loyalty is, if you just get those first 3 visits right, guys, you've won them over for life.
I think this is a really interesting road that we've gone down here, because look, I'm going to speak from my own experience here. We've got it's not a franchise brand, but it's a local kebab shop. And when we treat ourselves to a kebab, we go to this one place. And I would say 75% of the time they nail it and it's brilliant, but 25% of the time it's awful.
Yeah.
But we go back. We go back. But I think if that experience that wasn't as good was our first, second, third experience, we wouldn't have gone back. We'd have just found somewhere else.
That's right.
So I think it's a really interesting sort of road to go down, that loyalty, but there's still something about that brand, something about that essence, that soul that we stick with.
That's right.
It's really interesting that you said about 3 strong visits, especially if you're a young franchise brand.
That's right. It's how you make your guests feel over those 3 visits that determines the likelihood of repeat visits after that, for sure. And I guess by that token, you know, loyalty is consistency masked as a metric. Yeah. If you're delivering consistently really good experiences, that will reflect in increased loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you mentioned some things at the beginning there, you know, and consistency was one of those. There it is. I was looking through all my now countless bits of paper. But yeah, consistency is got to be part of that. It's got to be part of maintaining that soul as we grow. You know, because, you know, well, Heavenly Dessert's got 100 plus brand sites now, something like that.
Yeah, we're across the 70 mark globally.
Amazing. And when you've got that number of locations, you've got to be consistent. Like you say, you've got to deliver that as best as possible, that service, that same service everywhere you go, because it builds that feeling. It builds that. Why do people like brands? You know, lots of brands are franchise, and I speak for hospitality, I think, because it's in my soul. And I've got a lot of experience of it, and it's the same with others. But look, let's look at hospitality. You know, why do those brands resonate with people? And it's because you get that same experience. You feel safe, don't you? You think, oh, should we try somewhere new? Right? And you go, I don't know. We only treat ourselves to a meal out once a week. If we try somewhere new, there's a risk. There's a danger element. Some people thrive on that. And look, everyone's got to try something new. Otherwise, it won't help. But there's definitely a part of the population want the safety of knowing the experience is going to be good. You go, oh, I know if I go there, it's going to be good.
Absolutely. Listen, we learn this in hospitality quite early, is you can't compete with human nature. And human nature is we're all creatures of habit to some degree, right? So we will return to what's safe and what's a safe bet more often than trying new things. And that's not to pigeonhole the whole human race. I know there's a lot of people out there who love trying new things, but we're talking in a general sense here. So part of that brand soul and how you protect that soul as you scale. The third and arguably the most important part as you start adding more locations is consistency across your brand. Because ultimately, and I remember this from my days in McDonald's, it was drilled into to us, and I remember this fondly, still use it to this day. A cheeseburger should be the same in Beijing as it is in Bromsgrove, and that's what consistency looks like.
I like that. And yeah, absolutely, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah. And look, you know, you've already name dropped McDonald's there, and they're a great example, whatever you think of their food. right? Whether you love it or you don't. Oh God, use their expression there. They love that, won't they? But whenever you think of their food, getting that the same in another country, let alone another part of the same country where it started in America, right? But getting that the same in a different country with a completely different supply chain is a hugely difficult thing to achieve. And it's the essence of what we want to achieve as franchisors, because we've got a business. We believe it to be scalable. We believe it to be a process-driven business that people can follow. And yeah, you've definitely got to have that consistency as you grow. Let's have a quick look at what Joe's come back with here. He's put, you're a franchisor and you want more royalties, then get your model to produce greater volume with more bottom line revenue for your franchise owners. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going back to Johnny's point here, but look, I go back to the lovely John Hewitt, who, when he was a guest here, he said he had signed, I think, 5,000 franchisees across his career, which is a lot of people. And he said the secret is simply stated as happy, successful franchisees. I say simply stated because it's not as simple to achieve, but the successful part of that has to go down to the numbers part of it. And we've already gone to this, but I think it's worth repeating actually, because if you don't get the numbers right, if people aren't essentially making money from their business, and look, not all of the time, businesses have up and downs, right? Any business, including a franchise business. But if you're not making that bottom line, if you're not getting that ROI, then it's going to be too much of a challenge, and that's where you're going to lose the consistencies. That's where your feeling is not going to be right, and that's where you're going to lose the soul of the business as you expand. We've got about 3 minutes left until the last part of today's show, so I think let's end with what we think the future might look like in terms of the soul of the business. We've got all sorts of new things coming in. Penny's mentioned AI. Every time you look at a video on whatever social media you're looking at, you're doubting whether it's real. The feeling of believing and that loyalty is perhaps being diluted now by technology a little bit. So how do you think, as we sort of expand into new technologies, how do we keep that soul, that feeling, that essence, when people perhaps are doubting what they're seeing, hearing around them?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question, and we're right on the precipice of hospitality. Evolving is probably the way that I would look at it. Technology is becoming more and more apparent in restaurants, and of course QSR as well. And I think it's now a time for reflection for many franchisors, if not all franchisors, about who they really are and what their purpose is in terms of serving their guests. McDonald's, as we've raised as an example, know clearly what they are and have implemented technology to complement that. Same with other brands, and including Heavenly Desserts, who I work with. We're implementing technology that we know our guests are resonating with through a variety of different trials and improving their user experience. One thing that we've always got to be mindful of, and this is the same for any scaling business or scaled business, is the whole purpose of hospitality is connection. Certainly in restaurants, we generally go out to connect with other people or just have a conversation with a bartender. And technology must not replace that. It must complement it. So if me and you, Harvey, are heading down to a local restaurant and there's technology and we're there for a catch up, the technology should help us catch up and have that connection rather than hinder it or make the experience less. So it's a really exciting time for hospitality, if I'm honest, Harvey. And it's a great reflection point for everyone who runs a brand to say, who are we actually serving and how do we have technology complement those experiences?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. We've mentioned McDonald's a few times, and I went to years ago. I went to a McDonald's conference or something like that, and they were talking about their 25-year plan, which to me still is a ridiculously crazy future glimpse that you're thinking 25 years ahead. But this was what was really interesting. This was, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago. And they were talking about that it will run full circle, that everyone at the moment is drive-through, is ordering on apps. And what will happen is there will be a need, a feeling of wanting to connect, have conversations, and actually people will want to meet up in restaurants and talk to one another face to face. And I can feel that is coming, actually. I think that's in the future. I think it will go full circle because people will crave reality and true connection and true friendship. And that is what is at the soul and the heart of some of these businesses that we're talking about. Well, look, we have come to the end of the first part of today's show. It's been a fantastic conversation as always, and fueled, of course, by an amazing audience. Now, this is the part of the show that sometimes if I click the right button, my camera will go off. And it has gone off, but you can still hear me. I haven't gone anywhere. This is where I've got reach behind me. Because you're not allowed to see me without wearing a hat, of course. And now look at this beauty. Now, this hat was made for me by the lovely Paul Murphy. And Paul used to work for a franchise brand, and he's pretty much gone full-time in his hats. So I really want to give him a big shout out. So it's PJ Murphy and Sons, Bespoke British Hatters. And if you'd like a hat like this beauty here, then chat to Paul, scan the QR code. Now, this is also the part of the show where we stop talking about franchising for a little bit, and we find out a little bit about Wes. And it's also the part of the show where Wes can get his own back on me and ask me any question he likes. But before we do that, now I say every week I'm going to come up with a new question, and I probably will. But for now, and this may be, you may have the last one of these, which is exciting stuff anyway. But I'm going to ask you, have you met anyone famous? Have you got a claim to fame, or have you got an interesting and crazy hobby you'd like to share with us? You can pick any of those.
Yeah, a great question, actually, Harvey. You put me right on the spot there. And I'll go with, have I met someone famous? And I have met someone famous. And I met Leonardo DiCaprio in an M&M's store.
Wow.
In an airport while on my travels, and I couldn't tell you what he was doing in the M&M store, shopping, people surrounding him. He was doing whatever, but he really needed some M&Ms that day. So I walked over and I said, "Are you who I think you are?" And he just went, "Yeah, kid," and walked off. It was so cool. Still in acting mode.
Really cool.
Like, brilliant. I'm a fan forever.
Yeah, kid. How old were you at the time?
I was about 21, and I did look young as well, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
I don't think he would have called me kid. Yeah, old man. Yeah. Oh, I love that story. Was he sifting through M&Ms to just get a particular color, like celebrities of fame to do?
He didn't strike me as doing anything. Maybe he just liked hanging out in the M&M store. I don't know. Get away from reality for a little bit.
That's amazing. Actually, you know what? I don't think I will stop asking the question, because it comes up with some little gems like that. I saw Jason Donovan in Heathrow Airport eating sushi, wearing just some sandals. No, he was wearing clothes as well.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, look, I promised you that you could ask me anything you like and get your own back on me, because you've been answering these questions absolutely beautifully today. It's been an amazing episode. So I'm a man of my word. Now, no one's ever let me get away with this. You can let me get away with it. It's allowed. So now is the time. You can ask me anything you like.
Well, in the spirit of, certainly the teams that I work with will know this is a question I almost have tattooed on my forehead at this point. But it's one that's very intentional and very purposeful, Harvey, and it comes from the heart and a place of goodness. Is there anything I can do for you in the spirit of service? Because you give such a great service to this community, and I want to make sure that that's extended to you. Is there anything I can do for you, Harvey?
Well, that's a lovely question. That's a lovely question, actually, and no one has ever said that one before. And look, I think the answer to that is you already have. You've appeared on the show and shared the insights with our community and had that conversation with our community. And for me, that's why I do this. I do this to try and add value. And bringing people who are vastly more experienced than me about franchising is just an absolute honor and a real pleasure. So you've already done it. You've already done the thing that you could do for me. Maybe buy a couple of coffee machines.
There you go. There you go. I knew there was one tucked away in there.
Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, Wes. It really has been really insightful. I'd like to first of all thank everyone who has been here live today, everyone who's going to watch in the distant future. It could be 2024. No, that's the past. It could be 2,400 and something. It could be year 3000. If it's a year 3000, don't let us know. I'll be gone by then. Anyway, look, I would like to thank everyone for being here today. It's a real pleasure. You really do make this show. You make it what it is. So big thank you to you all. And a huge thank you to Wes for sharing his insights. Thanks so much, Wes.
No problem at all. Harvey, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I have no doubt we'll cross paths soon and hash the air out a little bit more.
Absolutely. So that just leaves me to let you know what's going to happen next week on the Franchise Show. So next week, we are going to be talking about franchising in India. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. We've got Gaurav coming on to talk about that with us. So please join us next Tuesday, which I think is the 1st of September. So please join us then at 5:15 GMT, 12:15 EST. And until next time, my lovely friends, take very good care. Cheerio.